It started with a whisper. At least, that's what Sam told himself when he moved into the house on Willow Creek Road. The house had been a steal, too good to pass up. The real estate agent had mumbled something about previous incidents, but Sam was too excited to care. The first night was uneventful. The second night, he heard the whisper. At first, he thought it was the wind, a draft sneaking through old wooden beams. But then he realized it had a rhythm, almost like words. It was faint, coming from the farthest room in the house. Sam checked every corner, but there was nothing, just silence. Then things escalated. On the fourth night, Sam woke up to the sound of footsteps pacing in the hallway. He held his breath, listening. The steps stopped right outside his door. He reached for his phone, turning on the flashlight, but when he opened the door, nothing. Just the hallway, empty and still. He tried to ignore it. Maybe old houses just did this. Maybe it was in his head. Then came the voices. Not whispers this time, but actual voices. He would hear them in the middle of the night, low and urgent. One night, he made out a phrase, "Don't let it take you." Sam's breaking point came when he saw the figure. It was just past midnight when he glanced out his bedroom window. A man stood in the backyard, staring up at him. Sam's stomach turned. The figure was pale, gaunt, and motionless. He stepped back from the window, heart pounding. When he looked again, the man was gone. The next morning, Sam decided to leave. He stuffed his belongings into bags, eager to get out before nightfall. But as he reached the front door, his phone buzzed. A new email from an unknown sender. No subject, no message, just an attachment. A photograph. It was his house. But something was wrong. In the picture, the house was disappearing, fading into nothing. The trees behind it stood untouched, but the house itself was vanishing like smoke. And there, in the yard, stood the pale man, smiling. Sam ran. He didn't stop until he was miles away. The next day, he drove back with the police. But when they arrived at the address on Willow Creek Road, there was nothing there, no house, just an empty lot overgrown with weeds, and a single set of footprints leading to where the front door should have been. Sam didn't sleep that night. How could he? The house he had lived in for nearly a week no longer existed. The police looked at him with thinly veiled suspicion, but without evidence of a crime, they had no reason to detain him. Still, one officer lingered as the others left. "You should go," he muttered. "Forget this place." Sam didn't argue. He checked into a motel on the other side of town, but sleep refused to come. He scoured the internet for any mention of Willow Creek Road, hoping to find some explanation. There was nothing. No history, no records. It was as if the house had never existed. Then, at 3:13 a.m., his phone buzzed. Another email. No subject, no text, just another attachment. With trembling hands, he opened it. It was a photograph of the motel room he was sitting in, and standing just outside the window, half shrouded in shadow, was the pale man, still smiling. Panic seized Sam's chest. He spun toward the window, heart hammering. Nothing was there. The parking lot sat empty, bathed in the dim glow of a flickering street lamp. Enough. He wasn't going to sit here and let this thing stalk him. He packed his bag in under 5 minutes, threw his things into his car, and drove anywhere but here. But no matter which road he took, no matter how many turns he made, the GPS kept rerouting him. Back to Willow Creek Road. His hands tightened on the wheel as he fought the growing dread in his stomach. The street was supposed to be empty, but as he slowed the car, his headlights illuminated something impossible. The house was back. It stood there as if it had never vanished, the porch light flickering invitingly. Sam's breath came in shallow gasps. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real, and yet the front door creaked open. A single whispered word slipped through the night air. Come. Sam didn't remember getting out of the car. He didn't remember stepping forward. But suddenly, he was at the threshold, staring into the darkness beyond. And then, something reached out. The last thing he saw was the pale man's face, impossibly close, his grin stretching wider than any human mouth should. Then, nothing. The next morning, a passerby reported an abandoned car at the edge of Willow Creek Road. The police investigated, but Sam was never found. A few weeks later, the lot was empty again, overgrown with weeds, and another house just like it appeared on a different street in a different town, waiting. Months passed, and Sam was nothing more than another missing person in a long-forgotten case. But the house remained, moving from town to town, always waiting for its next guest. Lena, a travel blogger with a taste for the strange, came across the listing one evening. Historic home for rent, fully furnished, quiet neighborhood. It had no address, just a set of GPS coordinates. Intrigued, she booked a weekend stay. The moment she arrived, an uneasy chill crept up her spine. The house looked wrong, like a painting that had been erased and redrawn one too many times. The edges seemed to waver when she wasn't looking directly at them. Still, Lena wasn't one to back out. She filmed her arrival, posting a short clip to her followers. All right, guys, this place is giving off major haunted vibes. Let's see what happens. The first night, nothing. Just the occasional creak of an old house settling. The second night, she heard the whisper, low, almost a breath against her ear. Leave. She whipped around, but there was no one there. Laughing nervously, she grabbed her phone to record. Okay, I swear I just heard something. If there's a ghost here, do it again. Silence. Then her phone buzzed. An email. No subject, no message, just an attachment. Lena tapped it open. It was a photograph of her, standing in the exact spot she was in now. But behind her, in the dim reflection of the window, was a pale, grinning face. Her stomach turned. Her fingers trembled as she slowly turned toward the window. Nothing, just the darkened glass. Her phone buzzed again. Another email. The same photograph. Only this time, she was missing from it. A slow creak echoed behind her, the floorboards shifting under weight. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. The last thing her camera recorded was a blur of motion, a strangled gasp, and a sound of something dragging across the wooden floor. By morning, the house was gone again. But somewhere, in another town, another traveler was scrolling through listings, and the vanishing house was waiting.